Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going over the best makeup of 2025 so far. So I cannot believe we are already halfway through 2025. And at this point in the year, I wanted to just go over my favorites that have been released so far. So I went back on all of my videos and just reflected on all the products I've tried. So I've created a list, and today I'm going to do my full face of all my 2025 luxury beauty favorites. But previously I did a top 10 list. So let's just get started with the complexion. I don't really have a primer to mention. I'm not someone that uses a primer on a daily basis. I don't necessarily think it is a necessity. So I'm going to just get started with the complexion. And I honestly had two different foundations to choose between. And that was the Dior foundation stick, which is absolutely gorgeous. And it is in the shade 2.5N, or the Dior Forever Hydra Nude foundation. And I have just been going back and forth between which one I wanted to include, because I do think the Dior Hydra Nude is really beautiful for an everyday foundation. It is very similar to the Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation, which I just love because it is that lighter coverage. I would say it's buildable to about a medium coverage. It does have a fragrance, both of these foundations do. But I really like the finish of this because this gives a very natural skin-like finish. With the Dior Stick Foundation, this gives a bit more of a glowy finish. So I just think this is better for dry, mature skin types, where this is going to be good for all skin types. I really think this is a universal foundation where, again, this is just going to be better for a different range of skin tones or skin types, which is going to be dry, mature, normal. I think you could wear it as well. And because of that, and I just think I've been using this one more. This is the Dior Forever Hydra Nude. I'm going to go in with this one. Both of these foundations are in 2.5N. They both have that beautiful blurring technology on the complexion. So no matter which one you choose, you're going to love the results because it does give that blur, that perfection to the skin without a lot of coverage. This one is a higher coverage level though. This is medium. It starts off at a medium coverage. You can obviously sheer it out, but you can build it up to be a more fuller coverage. This is the foundation I've been traveling with. Like, I went to Hawaii and Mexico this year. This is the foundation I brought with me. And if I go traveling again, this is the foundation I would bring as well. So I do really love both. I just think they're for different purposes. This is going to be more of an everyday foundation, the Forever Hydra Nude, and the Dior Forever Skin Perfect Stick Foundation is going to be good for, again, more special occasions. If you want your makeup to look a little bit more special, just because it is that more fuller coverage, is a bit more perfecting on the skin. But I love both of these, so I think you can't go wrong. It just depends on your preference. So I did kind of want to cheat and mention both of these foundations. So I'm going to get started with the Dior Forever Hydra Nude. I'm going to give it a good shake. As always, I like to distribute foundation onto the palm of my hand, and I will apply my brush to the palm of my hand and get it evenly distributed before I work it on to the skin. And I'm using this Repher. This is a B04, but I believe it's called the LC01 brush now. They changed the name. So this is just going all over the complexion. And again, I really like this foundation just for every day. It is a really nice, light, but buildable foundation. So even though it starts off more sheer and you can really see your skin through it, if you're someone that doesn't like a lot of makeup, or you don't like the look of a lot of makeup, you're going to really love this foundation because of how it's skin perfecting, because it has that blurring technology, that really smoothing technology on the skin, but it looks very skin-like. So it's going to smooth out the skin without giving you a ton of coverage on the complexion. And that's just what I prefer on a daily basis. But again, both of these foundations are gorgeous. And I brought the stick foundation to Mexico and Hawaii, and those are really hot, humid places, and I didn't have a problem with wear, even though it is more of a glowy finish foundation. I think it's just because my skin's dry, it worked out really, really well there. So I think you still could use the stick foundation if you have oily skin types. And I know some of you in my comments have let me know that this works beautifully on mature skin. And some of you, again, have also said that you don't like it and you have an oilier skin type. So I think it just is going to be dependent on your personal skin, and you're just going to have to try it for yourself, because I've heard it works so differently for so many different people. But I haven't really heard anyone negatively talk about this foundation unless you like a full coverage foundation. But I think it is just so beautiful on the skin. I love how it looks every time. And I like that you can still see like little freckles peeking through. I really like that on a daily basis. For concealer, I actually do not have a concealer favorite from 2025 so far. So I'm just gonna go in with my Chanel. This is the Le Corrector U. I have the shade 40, but B30 would be a better match for me. So once I go through this one, I will pick up that shade. So I'm just going to apply a little bit with a brush, just where I am darkest, right? Just where I am most blue. So I'm not bringing it up really close to the lash line because it can just sit in little fine lines there. So I want to just evenly distribute it there, not bring it up too close to the lash line like I stated. And then I also want to go in with my Chantecaille. This is the Camouflage Stylo. And I have the shade 4C in this one. And this one is a really good color for my under eyes. So I'm just going to bring it in that same area. This is going to add a little bit of brightness. And I just like that it's a little bit lighter in coverage as well. It has a little bit of a light reflecting technology, but it's nothing too crazy bright or anything. And then I'm going to go into my favorite concealer brush, which is this BK Beauty N16 brush. And I'm going to just blend that into the under eyes. So I'm just kind of pouncing that brush, like tapping it. And I'm not really buffing it a ton. I will buff it a little bit just to blend it a little bit into the skin, but I do majority like to just tap it in. And so I'm tapping it in first to where I'm the darkest. And then when I have less product on, I will bring it closer to the lash line, but I'm still not going to bring it directly against the lash line because again, then it can just sit in those little creases there. And I'll cover up that lash line with a little bit of shadow too. I actually, before I did concealer, I meant to go in with this product because for some reason I just prefer to do this before I go in with concealer. But this is the Westman Atelier Bronzing Drops, the Suntone Bronzing Drops in the shade Soleil Parfait 1. You do have to shake these very well before you apply them. They are quite liquidy and you can just take like a little amount. I kind of hate that that excess product gets collected up here. That's the one major downfall. But I really, really like these liquid bronzing drops. So again, I like to distribute that to the palm of my hand. And then I'm going to take this Hourglass, I believe it's the ambient, I forget the name, but again, I'll link it down below. Again, like to evenly distribute that onto the palm of my hand. And then I will work it into the complexion. So starting at the hairline, and I will add a little bit to the cheeks as well, where I want a little bit of bronzer. This is a really nice formula because it is such a thin texture, so it really looks like skin. It really melts into the complexion, and then it sets down and it's not going to move throughout the day. I also really like this because a lot of bronzing drops have shimmer or like a sheen to them, and I just don't like how that emphasizes texture, or I just don't like how it looks on the skin. It doesn't look as natural. This is a really nice neutral tone bronzer. So if things tend to go really warm on you, I think a lot of you guys would really like this product. It's almost like a bronzer color. It's not a very warm orangey bronzer, but I feel like it's just the perfect tone. It just gives you a little bit of definition without it looking overwhelming. And it really is skin-like. Like I can't get over how much this looks like just natural skin bronzing. And I especially like that fact that it does set down and it's not going to transfer, it's not going to move. It's not one of those bronzing drops that is a serum texture that's just going to sit on top of the skin. This truly melts in and it's not going to move throughout the day, which is perfect for these hot and humid months. You can mix these in with your foundation, even though I think it's advised not to. You still can to just deepen up a foundation. I really like these bronzing drops. They've become a really big favorite in my routine. For powder, really enjoying this Givenchy. This is the Prisme Libre Mattifying and Blurring Setting Powder. So this is the pressed version of their 4-color powder. I like that you have a lot more precision with a pressed powder. Obviously, in their loose powder, you just kind of dump out the product and then you don't get a lot of control out of the color options. Here you can pinpoint if you want a more yellow powder, if you want the more pink powder. You can just pinpoint more in a precise area. And I think that this powder is a lot more flattering than the loose powder. Even the previous version, which didn't have as much shimmer, the new version has been reformulated to have a lot of sheen. This is completely matte, which I really, really enjoy. And I really like this powder because it is exactly what it says. It is a blurring powder. So I'm just going to tap out any concealer just in case there's any excess. I'm going to go into this Refer 19 brush. I'm just going to pick up a little bit and set my under eyes. You do not need a lot of this powder. I'm going to set my eyelids as well. And it just does a great job. It does that, it's not like a crazy blur, but I would say it's very similar to my, I don't even know where that powder went. Oh, my Clé de Peau Refining Pressed Powder. But it's like a less, I don't want to say it's a less good version because it's still a really amazing powder. But this Clé de Peau powder is just like on another level. But this is something that I would say is comparable. It's not my absolute favorite, like I said, because the Clé de Peau one still exists, but it is a very close second place. It is very beautiful, has no shimmer particles to it. It's just a gorgeous, lovely blurring setting powder that's not going to add any coverage, which I really like. It like maybe slightly color corrects, but I can't really tell a huge difference. So I think if it does, it's very, very subtle. This tone works really well for me, especially under the eyes, where I do like just a very subtle brightness. And you can use this all over the face as well, which I will do later on. It's just a gorgeous powder. Very, very finely milled, a very gorgeous formulation as well. On to some powder products. And I first wanted to mention this Westman Atelier. These are the Baby Cheeks and Face Trace Sculpting Powder Duo. My favorite shade is the shade Petal and Biscuit. I do have another shade, which is the Coquette and Mimi, but I'm gonna be honest, I just don't use this one as much. I think this color story is a bit more flattering on my complexion, and I really like this contour duo. I have been someone that is not into contour, but I think just to add a little bit of that structure and definition back to the face, this is a really good tone, and this is a very beautiful formula. This is a very, very matte powder, so I'm just going to show you. I went in with that liquid, so usually I probably wouldn't do this step, but I am just going to show you these products in action, taking a BK Beauty 108 brush. You just need a little bit of product, and as always, I get that excess off on the back of my hand. So I'm just adding a little bit to the hairline where I'd add any sort of contour to my complexion. And I really like this powder because, again, you can see, or maybe you can't see, it is completely matte, so there are absolutely no shimmer particles. There is no sheen. You do not have to worry about this being sparkly or shimmery on the complexion. You don't have to be worried about it reflecting light in a weird way, which I feel like in the summer and springtime, it's just nice to have something completely matte if you are using a lot of highlighter products or blushes with a bit of sheen, or you're going to be out in direct sunlight. Sometimes shimmer particles on the skin just do not look flattering in direct light. Like if you are out in the daylight at an event, I usually find it's better to go matte or have, you know, selective sheen in specific areas. So I like having these options. And it's a really gorgeous formula because even though it's completely matte, it's not dry or dull on the skin. It's very easy to blend. It has a decent color payoff without it being overwhelming, without it being hard to blend. But it does give this very gorgeous, it's a very matte but very blurring formulation. So wherever you apply this on the complexion, and especially, you won't really notice it with the contour as much, but with the blushes, because when you apply blush, a lot of the time it's going on the most porous area on your face where that can be more obvious. You'll really notice how it blurs the complexion. And I love that these technologies are coming out on the skin where we can notice that blurring effect. And it really is gorgeously blurring on the complexion. I will say some of the colors I don't think are going to work for everyone. So it's really about finding the color story that works for you. Because I know some people just don't like this color story, but some people love this color story and it just works good on their complexion. And I think the most important thing about this formula is finding what works on your complexion. Because once you find that color story, you will fall in love with the formula. But again, it's just about finding the color story that works best for you. So I would encourage you to just try them out, swatch them, see what will work best on your complexion, because I promise you when you find that color story that works for you, you're going to love it. So the bronzer that I have just fallen in love with this year is this Dior Forever Nude Bronze. So they reformulated their bronzer and came out with this version, which I actually really prefer over the previous version. The previous version was just a typical powder bronzer. This is, I guess, technically, but this feels almost like a baked gelée because it is so hard pressed and it is very lightly pigmented. I would suggest using a more dense brush. It has that, I don't think it is a baked gelée, but it performs like a baked gelée because, like I said, it's hard pressed. It is very subtle on the skin. It is very buildable on the skin. It has a very soft sheen without it being shimmery. You can't notice shimmer particles in it. I would say it's more of a demi-matte formula versus a sheen. But Dior released this in matte formulas and version that had a bit of a sheen. This is the version with a sheen, but even though it says it has a sheen, it's very, very subtle, undetectable. You can't detect any shimmer particles. I do have the shade O2 Light, so it is a very light color. Very similar to the Hermes Atlas bronzer that I have. These are very, very similar. I would say this is almost a complexion enhancer color versus a bronzer. So I'm just going to, as always, I like to dip in and take that excess off. Taking a Refer 22 brush, and I am just going to tap this all over the skin to warm it up. I like to be more light-handed with bronzer, so I'm just going in with a little bit all over the face. I'm gonna go in with just a little bit more, as always, getting that excess off. But I just think this color is really beautiful. It's warm without it being orangey on the skin. It just gives my skin life. I really like this finish. I think it is just really beautiful how it just gives me a natural bronze versus it being a super high contrast bronzer where it looks like very detectable on the skin. I really like the finish because it is that demi-matte. It just looks like skin. You can't detect any shimmer particles on the skin. I think this powder almost melts into the complexion. And it's very, like, if you just think the Hermes bronzer is way too expensive, I really would suggest this one. It's a really nice formulation and it reminds me a lot of it. Although I still, like, the Hermes is still my number one. It's nice to have another option that's, you know, a little more affordable. I do like the packaging. I think it's cute, this little cushion. It does have, like, a sunscreeny coconut scent, but it's not a perfumey fragrance. Before I move on to the cheeks, I'm gonna do my eyes first, and I wanted to just mention my favorite eye products because I have 3 of them. So these have been my 3 favorite releases for the year. We have this Armani eye tint in the shade 25M Sandalwood. This is just a color extension. This is not a new formula, but I really like this color because a lot of the colors in this formula have been very, very cool toned. Like very cool tone. And this one is neutral, leaning slightly warm. It is not orangey though, which I really enjoy. It just gives a beautiful, a little bit of color to the crease without it being, I don't know, an obnoxious, hard to blend color. It's very easy to blend. You can really sheer it out. So while that was an intense color payoff that I showed you, you can really sheer it out. So you just get this subtle amount of color like it is here. So you can really adapt this and blend this out. I also love this NARS Total Seduction eyeshadow stick in the shade Hustle. This is just the most perfect golden bronze champagne. It is so beautiful. I like this because this is a more subtle shimmery eyeshadow stick. It's not going to give you intense glitter payoff. There are no chunky glitter particles. This is not chunky at all. This is a smooth, sophisticated sheen. So if you're someone that likes that everyday shimmer versus it being like an over-the-top, like nighttime shimmer that's more of a glitter, this is giving shimmer vibes, a beautiful sheen that's very subtle, not overwhelming. It's easy to blend, and once it sets all day long. So I adore this for something subtle. This has just become a favorite. I really like this color. And then for the eyeshadow palette, this is the NARS Laguna Quad. So this was actually released last year, but they brought it back this year permanent. So I wanted to mention it because this has just become a favorite eyeshadow palette. I love this. The matte in this formula, there's just one matte shade. It's really easy to blend. It's not too powdery. It's really great for any sort of, if you're a beginner into makeup, you're going to find this formula very easy to work with. But if you're an expert, obviously, you're going to find this easy to work with. They're buildable shadows. They are creamy. They're easy to use. This color story is just really easy to use. This is a neutral, leaning, warm eyeshadow palette that's going to flatter everyone. The most shimmery shade in this palette is this shade right here. It does have a little bit of intermittent shimmer, but it's nothing crazy. It reminds me of the Chantecaille Luminescent eye shade, so it's nice just to finish off an eye look with that shade. This is the most perfect, beautiful golden champagne bronze. It reminds me exactly the exact same color as Hustle in that cream eyeshadow stick, very similar. And then this shade right here is just like a beautiful antiqued bronze. It has a little bit of that red tone to it. And I just think this formulation is gorgeous. The rest of these shimmers here are that sophisticated sheen where they aren't a chunky glitter. And I think they're just so flattering on the eyes. So I think I'm just going to try and use a mix of all of this today. So Let me start off with a little bit of this eye tint from Armani in the shade 25M. And I'm just going to take this Rephr 01 brush and I am just going to go back and forth and get that evenly distributed. And then I am going to take that and apply that to the outer corner of the lid. I'm just going back and forth between the eyes. You could obviously do one eye at a time, but I just want a little bit of color payoff. I'm not going in for anything dramatic. I'm almost just using this as an eye base. So applying it first to the outer corner of the eye, and then with any of that excess product, I'm going to distribute that through the crease for just a little bit of color payoff. But again, this is so easy to work with. It's very buildable, so you can build it up, get a little bit more color payoff here. I'm just gonna bring the rest of that onto the eye. So not being super precise here. Again, very, very easy to blend. I'm also gonna take a little bit of this on a BK Beauty 204 brush, and I'm going to apply that underneath the lash line. I just like to bring the same color underneath the lash line, just for a little bit more cohesion so it all goes together, bringing that from the outer corner inwards. And then I'm going to take this NARS eyeshadow stick in the shade Hustle, and I'm going to use that all over the lid. So I'm going to apply it from the inner corner, working it towards that outer corner where I applied that crease shade. And I'm just going to use this Rephr 02 brush and just go over the edges just to make sure it's all smoothly blended in. This is just so gorgeous. I can't even get over this shade on the eye. It's so, so, so pretty. I also want to take a little bit of that and run it just on the middle of the lower lash line. Just add a little bit of sheen there. And then again, I'm going back with that Rephr 02 brush and just blending out the edges. I'm also going to go back into that Rephr 01 brush, and I'm going to go into the matte shade in this palette. I'm just going to take a little bit because I do get off that excess. I just want to make sure that's all clean. All the edges are really beautifully buffed together. And I'm just kind of setting down that liquid eyeshadow and also just adding a little bit more of a matte shade just to the outer. I'm only bringing this in the outer corner and the outer crease. I'm not going to bring it all the way to the inner corner of the eye. Just to add a little bit more warmth, a little bit of that matte shade just to the outside corner. Gosh, I just love this palette so much. And then I'm going to go back into that champagne gold, or not back, I haven't even gone in with it, but just to intensify, just like very slightly, I'm going to just set down that cream eyeshadow. You absolutely do not need to do this, but I just wanted to use obviously all the eyeshadows that I talked about in my favorites for the year. Just wanted to use them all together. You do not obviously have to do that. I'm also going to, again, go back to that matte shade and go back with my 204 brush and just apply that to the lower lash line as well. Just again, so it's all cohesive and the bottom lash line is matching up with the top lid. And then just to finish off, I'm going to take my fingertips into this lightest shimmer shade. And I'm going to, again, evenly distribute that onto my fingertips. This will make sure that I get less fallout. And I'm just going to add a little bit of brightness into the center of the lid. And yeah, it's just going to be very subtle. And again, it's not going to look like that chunky glitter or anything. I just think the eyes look so, so pretty. And that is the eye look. I love the color combination of everything together. But I love these products by themselves. You absolutely do not have to buy all of these, obviously. But if you're looking just for an eyeshadow quad, this is the only eyeshadow palette I need. I can get rid of my other eyeshadow palette. Well, I mean, I'm not going to. But if I was just a minimalist and I wanted one great eyeshadow palette, this for the spring and summertime, such a good formula, so underrated. So happy they brought this back permanent. And again, this is what I am going towards as just an everyday girly who is lazy and I don't want to spend too much time on my eye makeup. I like those one and dones. This for an everyday matte, you're perfect. If you like a little bit of shimmer, get this or whatever color speaks to you in this formula that's just subtle, it's sophisticated shimmer. Love this formulation. These together are beautiful. And again, I like this for an all matte look. If I just want shimmer, I can just wear this. this together is gorgeous. I don't need an eyeshadow palette. So if you're someone that just finds you're not reaching for eyeshadow palettes a lot anymore, like I know a lot of you have told me, forgo this eyeshadow palette. But if you like eyeshadow palettes, this is beautiful. But these are really all you need. I'm so happy with them. Went in with my Chantecaille Faux Seal Longest Lash Mascara, and I tight lined with the Hourglass Voile Waterproof Gel Liner. So just in my upper waterline. I just love this eye look. I think it's just flattering every time. For the cheeks, again, like I said, I love the Westman Atelier blush duos. The shade you love, you can't go wrong. These are absolutely gorgeous. But I also really love this YSL. These are the Make Me Blush powder blushes. For me personally, I prefer the matte formulation. I think the shimmers in these, like I tried the Nude La Vanille shade, or I forget how you pronounce it, but it's number 44. And it's just so shimmery. It's like that really obvious shimmer, especially when you're in the sunlight. You can just really detect it. So I prefer the matte formula. I know some reviewers said that this was chalky and it was patchy. On me personally, and I have dry skin, I did not find it to be that way. I will say there is a little bit of hard pan here, so it is a very delicate powder, but you can just use Scotch tape and get rid of that hard pan. This is just a very beautifully, finely milled, very smooth formulation. This color is the perfect pinky beige peachy shade. It's a little bit more pink than it is peach, but it's absolutely stunning. I love this color so much. So I'm just going to go in with a Rephr 05 brush. And as always, I'm going to pick it up on this brush. And I'm just going to dip off that excess powder on the back of my hand. And then I'm just going to apply it to the cheeks. And it's just a beautiful blurring blush formula. So it is similar to the Westman Atelier in that it is that blurring formula, but these formulas feel completely different. This feels very smooth and silky, where this feels a little drier to the touch. It feels a little, yeah, drier, I guess is the best word I could use to describe it. The Westman Atelier is not as buttery smooth, where this formulation is like buttery smooth, silky to the touch. That Westman Atelier is not, even though it applies very blurring on the skin. It honestly, the Westman Atelier doesn't swatch very beautifully. It almost swatches patchy, but it doesn't apply patchy, I promise. And so I'm just tapping this, like you can see, just onto the cheeks like this. And then I'm going to go into this Givenchy powder, and I'm going to use this to precisely powder my complexion. So again, I'm going to take that Rephr 19 brush. This has like looser, like it's like dense at the bottom, but then these hairs at top are a little bit fluffier. So you get that precision application, but it's not super, super dense of a brush where it's going to leave a lot of powder behind. I'm just going to tap into this, always getting that excess powder off, and I'm just going to precisely powder right beside my nose, middle of the chin, middle of the forehead. Sometimes I like to do besides the nose or even the jawline, but that's all I powder on the skin. And then I'm going to leave just the rest be. They can be free to do however it pleases the rest of the day. I just don't want powder all over my skin. I just realized I forgot to do highlighter before the blush. So I actually do like to do highlighter before I do blush because I just like how that blend looks. However, I forgot. So I'm going to go into the highlighter now. And my favorite highlighter of the year has been this Dior Forever Glow Luminizer in the shade 02 Gold Halo. This is a big gelée powder, so it has that really beautiful quality where you're not going to get a lot of pickup when you pick it up on a brush, but it's just going to blend into the complexion so beautifully, and it's going to look second skin-like. It's going to melt into the complexion. So that's what I really like. So I also I just want to mention, I picked up this Prada highlighter, and it is, I feel like, honestly, these two are really neck and neck. They are different formulations though. While this is a baked gelée, this is just a typical highlighter formula. This is going to be less of a melt into your skin. Like it does still melt into the skin. It doesn't look powdery, but it doesn't melt into the skin quite like this one does, where that just becomes second skin. Like the Prada is going to give you more of a subtle highlighter. This has like no shimmer particles at all to it. Where it doesn't really have shimmer particles because you can't see individual shimmer particles, but it is more glowy on the skin. It looks more wet and glossy and dewy, where this is just going to give your skin like that healthy glow versus it being a shimmer highlighter, if that makes sense. So I really like both of these, and I feel like I just like them for different purposes. This is going to be more subtle and natural, where this is a little bit more glowy, But again, this is my mom's favorite highlight, and it's not that super glowy shimmer you can see from space. It's very subtle. Like I said, I'll show you. I'm going to pick it up on this BK Beauty N17 brush. I'm picking it up on this side, and then I'm just going to, of course, tap off that excess, and I'm just going to apply it to the very high points of the cheeks, and just, wow, that glow is so gorgeous. So just there. I also like to take a little bit down the nose and then on the tips of the nose, and it's just so pretty. Just going to really blend it into the skin. And again, once you really buff this highlighter into the skin, it never sits on top of the complexion. It just looks like you have that really beautiful natural glow. And I just am going to take just ever so slightly, just a little bit more of that blush, because again, I like how it looks when my blush is over top of my highlighter. I just think you can even press it into the skin even more. It just looks less like there's a highlighter sitting on top of your skin when you apply the blush over top. And I think a matte blush works really well for this effect. So I would just recommend doing your makeup that way. Forget what I did previously. Oh, but so gorgeous. Just how that highlights the cheekbones. And again, I'll link that video my mom and I did. My mom picked up the pink halo in this. And so that's why I decided to buy the pink shade in this Prada highlight, because I just thought it would be nice to have a more champagne and then a pink highlight. And I really like both, but I still really like this Dior one. I think the quality of this is just gorgeous. This baked gelée is just beautiful. And you can see that highlighter on my mom in that video as well. And it's just gorgeous for mature skin as well. Just love that highlight. And for lip products, this Merit, this is the Signature Lip Sheer. This has just been my favorite, not only lip liner, but also just lipstick in general. I like to use this just as an all-in-one. So I'll just run it all over the lips, line my lips, fill them in with this color. This is, again, it reminds me of that YSL Rose Haze. So this is the 06 Rose Haze shade. They kind of are similar in tone. The Merit is lighter, but the color story is just very similar. And I don't want anything too cool toned on the lips because my eyes are quite warm. So I'm just gonna do that. I have a little bit of that Paula's Choice lip balm still on. And I do wanna go on top with this Summer Fridays. This is their lip balm formula. So I tried the Dior lip balms. In my previous video, I mentioned it. I basically returned all that Dior stuff. The eyeshadow quad ended up being not good at all. The first time I wore it, I liked it. The second time I liked it, but I didn't wear it for that long. When I wore it all day long, I hated the performance of the eyeshadow. There's just something weird about how the shimmers looked on the eyes. And then the performance was just not good. It faded so quick throughout the day. I just didn't like how it looked on the eyes. And the cream blush stick, I just really like the Merit one so much better that I think it just is kind of silly. Like, they're just so much more pigmented than the Merits that they don't work in the same way the Merit ones do over top of powder products at the end of your makeup. It still works, but if you do apply too much, it can look a little bit cakey, where the Merit ones never look cakey. And then again, underneath makeup, they're just so glossy that when you apply a powder over top, they can actually look cakey because they're so glossy and high pigment. I just prefer the Merit ones, so I just wanted to update you on that. But besides the point, wow, how did I even get on that topic? This is the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm in the shade Pink Guava. This is gorgeous. It gives you just a subtle hint of color. Right, I was talking about that because I tried the Dior lip balms. They are so overpriced. They are $57 Canadian. This is $32. You get more product in this. I do like the formulation. Like, honestly, the formulas, they feel the exact same. To me, I didn't notice a better formulation with the Dior, even though you're paying more, but you get more product in this one. You got, basically when you felt the tube of the Dior ones, they felt like they were half full, and you don't get a lot of product for your money. They feel the exact same as this. They're just overpriced, and I don't love the fragrance of the Dior ones, where I like the fragrance of this. It smells fruity, but in a nice way, and I just really prefer this formulation. So those are all my favorite products for 2025 so far. I believe I got everything in this video. Okay, so I'm actually done my makeup, but I forgot one step and I really wanted to show it. So as a final step, these Merit Flush Bombs, I'm obsessed with these. These work perfectly, especially after we've applied all our makeup products. Maybe things look a little powdery. I don't personally think they do right now. I think the makeup looks really natural. But to just bring a little bit of skin texture back and to just give a little bit more warmth because my eyes are a little bit on the warm side, I'm going to take the shade Lusitano. I'm just going to apply it to the palm of my hand, and then I'm going to go in with this BK Beauty 106 brush and just apply a little bit of that. I'm just going to add a little bit of warmth to the skin, and I'm going to bring a little bit of that skin-like texture back because these are sheer in color, but they're also a bit of a glossier finish. So this will just allow my skin to come back to life. It will get rid of any of that powderiness, but it won't cake up, which a lot of other cream blushes would. Oh, this is just so flattering. Again, my mom loved these. When my mom was on my channel, I'll link that video down below. My mom also loves these. So she had the shade Archival, and then I just picked her up the Lusitano shade because I thought she could have, it's nice to have options. And she just loves that formula as well. So this is just a perfect finishing touch. Again, it just brings that skin-like texture back to the skin after you've applied powders. And it just added that little bit of warmth just to make everything flow together nicely. And now that is the finished makeup look. So those are all my favorite products of 2025 so far. I hope you enjoyed this Get Ready With Me style. I would love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite products of 2025 so far? I also just wanted to quickly throw in an honorable mention of this Chanel Jouet de Lumiere multi-use eyeshadow and highlighter palette. If this was permanent, this would have made it into my list, but I wanted you guys to still be able to access and receive, like be able to purchase all the products that I talked about in today's video. I absolutely love this eyeshadow. This is an eyeshadow and highlighter palette. This is gorgeous. This is one of those Big Chalet formulas. Very similar to this Dior formula that I talked about, but you get 4 in 1. And I love to use this on the eyes and the skin, but it sold out really quickly and you cannot purchase it anymore. So I didn't really want to talk about it in this video. But if you're wondering, I absolutely love that. And that would have made the list for sure. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.